After living for nearly 100 years on this planet, I now understand the most important place on Earth is not on land, but at sea.
Humanity is so caught up in sending objects and people alike to the stars. With pollution and overpopulation on the ever rise as we progress through the 21st century, mankind has already began its preparations for aborting to distant bodies in our cosmos. With the likes of Blue Origin, founded by our very own Jeff Bezos, all the way back in 2000, taking its New Shepard rocket to the edge of space now in April 2025, among the people on board its flight being none other than Katie Auntie Perry and NFL star Michael Strahan.
In 15 seasons, Strahan pummeled his way to 141.5 sacks, including a record-setting 22.5 in 2001.
To SpaceX, our prolific private space company with regular rocket launches for its Starlink satellite constellation, there's even talks of establishing a permanent, self-sustaining human settlement on Mars, with NASA's long-term goals to send humans to the Red Planet to search for life and drive technological advancement ever prevalent.
Colonel, you better take a look at this radar. What is it, son? I don't know, sir. But it looks like a giant dick.
Yeah.
Take a look
Though
at
there still lays an
God.
uncharted universe right under our noses. Or should I say, theirs? What have I become? A significant portion of our global oceans remains unexplored, with estimates suggesting more than 80% currently still unmapped, and recent analysis of our seafloor indicating that only about 0.0001% of the deep sea floor, which coincides everything below 200 meters sea level, has been observed by humanity. You can chalk that up to the enormous costs coinciding with deep sea exploration, with technological challenges due to the heightened pressure and other extreme conditions. Only about 26.1% of the global seafloor is mapped at all, so there's really no telling what's below our shores. More than 40% of the world's population lives within 100 kilometers or about 60 miles off the coast. The concentration of people in coastal regions, mostly driven by economic opportunities, trade, natural resources, and a generally more hospitable environment, yet our knowledge of Earth's oceans is minuscule at best. In some ways, it's easier to stick humans into space than to send them to the crushing pressures of Earth's watery depths. But the thing is, that makes more sense than we realize. Distinct from every other planet in our solar system, Earth encompasses a truly stable body of liquid water on its surface. Rather than vapor or subsurface oceans, this allows for the creation of life by acting as a crucial solvent for vital chemical reactions, transporting nutrients and minerals, supporting diverse aquatic ecosystems, and forming the foundation of the global hydrological cycle, creating a habitable environment with moderate temperatures. But this wasn't always the case. Even though a significant portion of our Earth's oceans were likely trapped in rocks and mantle already present during formation, more recent evidence points to space itself as the foundation of our water world.
On launch day, just like this, you'll come up the elevator and you're gonna go straight into this room right here.
Asteroids, or more specifically carbonaceous chondrites, a rare and unique class of primitive stony meteorite rich in carbon, water, and organic compounds, the isotopic fingerprint of which matches the water found in our oceans. This space-based delivery theory proposes that Earth formed in a region of space where it was too hot to have any kind of water, differing from the more mainstream Goldilocks theory of the past few decades. The new proposal suggests the water that we have on Earth to have been delivered post-formation by other bodies in the solar system, ergo, are carbonaceous chondrites. In combination with the dynamic and often erratic nature of evolution, where killer whales have now began hunting sharks and attacking boats due to diminishing food sources, to the point where humpback whales have been documented saving seals and other animals from orcas on over 100 occasions. A behavior scientists refer to as mobbing or predator deterrence. While the precise motivation is unknown, theories suggest it could be a form of altruism. It's like a National Geographic soap opera out here. Don't even get me started on the lost city of Atlantis or Yonaguni Monument in the Pacific, both leading way to theories for advanced ancient civilizations all across our planet. With so many aspects of our oceans still unbeknownst to society, why spend trillions upon trillions of dollars sending metal boxes and people up into orbit when we can take a chunk of that and put it into deep sea research? Ooh, I know what'll work. There's also a lot of gold and oil underwater worth gazillions of dollars. That'll get governments involved. right? From the world's largest mountain range hidden below the surface of our waters, to unexplained sounds and bioluminescent creatures living in complete darkness, the many oceans of our planet hold some of the grandest unsolved mysteries that lay on in society. Compared to the vast desolate wasteland that is outer space, one would think the sea pales in comparison to the trillions of light years of unending emptiness. Though, surely not to the degree and literal distance, it's the lack of concurrent knowledge throughout our history that sustained its bearing. As above, so below. The deepest point underwater is far deeper than Mount Everest is tall, as the Challenger Deep in the Mariana Trench reaches depths of approximately 36,200 feet, or 11,030 meters. If you were to place Mount Everest into the trench, over a mile of its peak would be submerged underwater. At these depths, the pressure is more than 1,000 times greater than at sea level, with a majority of the organisms within our animal kingdom not surviving to tell the tale. Not only dips, but a vast mountain range also stretches globally across our oceans, with the mid-ocean ridge being the longest mountain chain on Earth, winding for over 40,000 miles almost entirely underwater. Statistically, less of this mountain range has been explored than the surface of Mars or Venus via probe. Many of the most magnificent commemorations of our planet's radiance are covered by literal hundreds of miles of ocean water. Every day there are new discoveries of the most outrageous things underwater, far more frequent than the now predictable nature of aerospace, at least comparatively so. It seems that many of the laws that are followed both within our atmosphere and out in the cosmos are not obeyed when blanketed by highly pressurized seawater. Lakes and waterfalls typically requiring a bare minimum of oxygenated area around to encapsulate either bodies of water, which is to say you can't have a lake or waterfall full of liquid underwater, right? On the contrary, when salt water meets dense hydrogen sulfide, it's been found to form underwater brine lakes, coined by researchers, with shorelines and visible surfaces separated completely underwater. Seemingly straight out of a sci-fi channel production, the Denmark Strait Cataract, for one, is an underwater waterfall located between Greenland and Iceland, and stands as the world's tallest dwarfing Angel Falls. The deeper one travels across our oceans, you would begin coming across brine pools or the aforementioned underwater lakes.
What could this system represent in terms of understanding life on other planets as well as early life on Earth?
These pockets full of extremely dense saline water down on the sea floor form from chemical reactions, salt deposits, or brine rejection during seawater freezing. With their own surfaces and even waves are toxic to most marine life living around it due to its high salinity and low oxygen levels. However, like anything seemingly out of this world, these brine pools still support unique extremophile ecosystems around their edges, mostly containing specialized bacteria and other microorganisms who thrive from the toxicity. Unlike the cavernous void that is our cosmos, filled with generally nothing but the stars, planets, singularities, amongst other miscellaneous debris, ergo most of it is just a lonely vacuum. Contrasting to that of the ocean, which is our planet's biggest museum by far, estimated to have more historical artifacts and shipwrecks at the bottom of the sea than in all of the world's museums combined. With millions of wrecks scattered across the globe, that not only makes it the intercontinental mystery haunting humanity, but also a treasure trove of valuables that most likely will live on even past civilization. Even the luscious air that we breathe in, commonly believed to be spit out from our forests, though the majority of the oxygen that we consume, around 70%, actually is generated by marine plants like phytoplankton floating near the surface. Now, don't take anything away from our glorious woodlands, which outside of just oxygen creation, regulate climate by absorbing carbon dioxide, prevent soil erosion, among other countless assets. However, it can't be argued the inexplicable nature of our oceans, with legends running rampant across the entirety of the globe, featuring mythical beings and colossal creatures that embody the ocean's mystery and danger. From the enchanting mermaids to the Kraken, a giant cephalopod from Scandinavian folklore able to sink ships and devour entire crews, to the biblical Leviathan, or a massive serpentine sea monster representing literal primordial chaos. Even Greek philosophy and Japanese folklore encompasses monsters like Scylla, Charybdis, and Japan's Umibozu, each representing hazardous spirits billowing across our oceans. Even for the most skeptical, at the very least, it shows a deep fascination for our waters. This curiosity, primarily stemming from a lack of understanding, has led nearly every single culture to place it amongst the likes of the divine. With a literal boatload of mythical tales, accompanied by its many scientific mysteries, why are we still sending pop artists out to the edge of space when no human has ever been to the seafloor? Since the beginning of space exploration on April 12, 1961, there's only been 3 people who have passed away in space due to a depressurization accident during re-entry in 1971. Meaning after 10 years of global experience, we had that locked down. Now with the ocean, there isn't a single easily quantifiable number for the deaths during deep sea exploration, as there's literally too many to count. With the most recent publicized incident being the OceanGate Titan disaster in June 2023, taking all 5 people on board during a trip to see the Titanic. Did we really give up on sea exploration for bigger and better things? Or really, was this a calculated risk aversion from the murderous willows coming from our seafloor?
There was no way of knowing when Titan was going to fail, but it was a mathematical certainty that it would fail.
First described by Greek philosopher Plato around 360 BC as a vast, powerful island empire located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which we now know as the Strait of Gibraltar. In his dialogues, Timaeus and Critias, he writes of how Atlantis sank into the sea around 9600 BC, following ultimate divine punishment. The story, widely considered a philosophical allegory rather than a historical account, has been used for centuries to contrast a morally corrupt imperial power with Plato's ideas of a virtuous ideal state. Situated in the Atlantic Ocean just west of the Strait of Gibraltar, Atlantis is said to have stood, described as being larger than Libya and Asia Minor, or the Turkish Anatolia Peninsula, combined. Its capital city, built on top of a mighty hill, was uniquely designed with concentric rings of land and water nestled within the city walls, connected by canals and tunnels to allow for ships to arrive and depart with ease. It was a beacon of economic prosperity and roaring trade amongst neighboring groups. Its central palace and temple were even have said to be dedicated to the sea god Poseidon, who, according to myth, founded the kingdom and made his son Atlas its first official king. The land being exceedingly fertile allowed for a highly advanced civilization when it came to engineering. With sophisticated architecture, irrigation systems, and harbor installations, it stood as a modern illuminator at the time for technological innovation. As with all philosophical anecdotes, there's always a moral lesson at play. A city like Atlantis would never have been laid across the writings of Plato if it were not for the crucial psychological study incorporated. Initially, the Atlanteans were a morally upright people following a strict code of laws. However, as time progressed, its inhabitants grew arrogant and greedy, leading to a decline in ethical standards,
What is this?
We use this air pocket as an extra layer of precaution.
moral corruption soon turned into its people declaring war on neighboring lands, including the likes of their idolized ancient Athenians. The primalistic, blood-fueled conquest allowed Atlantis to take over parts of Europe and Africa at the time, before ultimately being driven back by our Athenians. Angered by their hubris, Zeus, among the other gods, punished the islands, triggering cataclysmic earthquakes and floods, causing Atlantis to sink into the ocean in a single day and night, leaving an unnavigable muddy sea. Many historians perceive this as a made-up story, meant to stand as an allegory illustrating his philosophical ideas regarding hubris, moral decline, and the qualities necessary for an ideal state. Despite widespread scholarly consensus, the enduring mystery still leads to various theories regarding real-world inspirations and locations for the mythical city, of the most popular being the Minoan civilization, which Many link to Plato's accounts of Atlantis. Located on the island of Crete, the Minoans were in fact faced with a catastrophic volcanic eruption on their nearby island of Thera, which is modern-day Santorini, around 1600 BCE, precisely around the time when Plato accounts the downfall of Atlantis. The Minoans, quickly devoured by this cataclysmic event, also encompassed advanced architecture and maritime power similar to Plato's description. Spanish researchers have also pinpointed a region off the coast of Andalusia, Spain, claiming to have found possible sunken ruins and signs of tsunami damage that correspond with Plato's accounts. Andalusia stands just north of Gibraltar, and some equate the western coast facing the Atlantic, tucked up against Portugal, to be the location. Though this still has been met with skepticism from the mainstream scientific community. As with any mythical tale, once details are recounted over and over with the passing of time, newer formed opinions amongst younger generations undoubtedly romanticize certain aspects, leading to pseudo-archaeology gaining grip on New Age beliefs. For many, the mystery is less about finding a literal city and more on the enduring allure of a lost human civilization in combination with moral lessons woven in with its inevitable downfall. More importantly, how we as the current rendition of humanity can keep ourselves from facing similar fates. Though modern oceanographic surveys and seafloor mapping techniques have not yet found any trace of a lost continent the size Plato described, lesser known underwater cities legitimately discovered in the 1980s have only flared intrigue for all of our lost civilizations still yet to be discovered. The mysterious Yonaguni Monument, often referred to as Japan's Atlantis, is a submerged rock formation off the coast of Yonaguni Island, Japan. Known for its symmetrical ziggurat-like appearance, it's been at the center of heated debate over its origins, whether the colossal underwater rock formation was created naturally or by an ancient lost civilization. Located in the shallow waters off Yonaguni, Japan's westernmost island, part of the Ryukyu Islands archipelago, the main feature is a rectangular sandstone formation measuring approximately 150 meters by 40 meters, and rising 27 meters from the seafloor, with its top just 5 meters below the surface. The structure is complex and large, with rectangular terraces and side steps, nearly vertical walls combined with sharp corners, giving it a man-made aesthetic. Curious divers have even noted other peculiar formations nearby, including 2 pillars, a 10-meter-long dividing wall of sorts, as well as a triangular depression coined the Triangle Pool. The central structure's stepped, symmetrical appearance has fueled intense and unresolved debate among geologists and archaeologists alike. Proponents of the man-made hypothesis, such as marine geologist Masaki Kimura, believing the structure's striking symmetry, straight lines, sharp corners, and step-like formation to be evidence of human craftsmanship, pointing to alleged rock carvings and strategically placed holes that might have served as posts. Supporters believe these formations derive from the remnants of an ancient submerged city built by a lost civilization. Dating estimates place the structure's origin back 10,000 to 12,000 years to a period when sea levels were lower at the end of the last ice age, which supposedly submerged the monuments and city along with it. Kimura in one of his papers even claims to have identified roads, buildings, and even a stadium-like structure when you search further around, though the mainstream belief still persists that this may be a natural phenomena plopped out by Mother Nature, as the material of the monument is mostly sandstone and mudstone, which easily fractures along natural bedding planes and linear joints, and could form the rectilinear patterns and step-like features. The site is also in a tectonically active zone, and geologists suggest that earthquakes and natural erosion have shaped the formations over thousands of years. Skeptics even argue that the scale and size of these steps are far too large to have been practically used by humans, though supporters argue that the dense concentration of so many peculiar geometric features in one single area is highly improbable without at least some level of human intervention, as actualization of lost civilizations like Atlantis and Mu would also force a re-evaluation of human history, suggesting advanced stonework capabilities far earlier than conventionally believed, meaning the expunging of hundreds of thousands of dollars of grant money, not to mention research career annihilation. This is simply just a meticulous uphill battle. Nevertheless, this still gives way to the understandable inquiry into why we aren't exploring our oceans as systematically as we do with many other enigmatic aspects of society. As the amount of unfinished business when it comes to knowledge on our sea floor stays stagnant, many other factors of our oceans are still yet to be clarified. Unlike the intricate ecosystems that our land animals take part in, their counterparts underwater are less understood. Yes, humanity has an insatiable appetite for all underwater culinary material, no matter how insect-like they may be. However, our understanding of the same ecosystems down under are incomparable.
And the king lived out the remainder of his days in self-imposed exile. Neither he nor the trident were ever seen again.
Every single time humanity presumably makes a new discovery underwater, we seemingly give up, or rather retreat, with no further explanation given in many instances. From the unexplained sounds from the deep, where NOAA, or the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration in 1997, used hydrophones under the southern Pacific Ocean and heard a cryptic bloop sound emanating from below. Researchers recorded an ultra-low frequency sound across the Pacific, and as the loudest unidentified underwater sound ever recorded at the time, puzzled scientists for years to come, until it was ultimately determined to be an ice quake from a cracking iceberg. A bit fruitless, I agree. Another called the Upsweep, discovered in 1991 by the Pacific Marine Environmental Laboratory, or PMEL, at NOAA, using their SOSUS underwater sound surveillance system, consisting of a series of long, narrow band sounds which increase in frequency over several seconds initially.
If you spare a little of your imagination, it is a film to describe to you the effect of cymatic frequencies on matter.
While its origins remains unsolved, researchers continue to study the sound, which has dimmed in overall intensity since 1991. This particular sound is seasonal, with peaks occurring in the spring and fall around the Pacific. Some researchers pin this to the underwater volcanic activity, though similar frequencies aren't being picked up in other areas with extremely high levels of tectonic plate movement. In other words, any land along the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, Southwest Indian Ridge, and etc. Combined with the pitiful degree of knowledge on what's actually at the bottom of our oceans and major bodies of water in general, our greatest nightmares could be lurking just over the horizon. Coupled by our ever-present habit as a species to encroach onto other organisms' environments, with overfishing and ecosystem dismay occurring all across the globe, leading to many invasive behaviors of our current species to be developed to offset these man-made outcomes. Orcas off the coast of South Africa have developed a novel hunting strategy of flipping great white sharks upside down to induce a trance-like state, and then extracting their livers. This behavior is completely unexplained and has caused local shark populations to flee the area.
7-gill sharks grow to 9 feet long and 200 pounds. A much larger meal for an orca than a small ray. But the 7-gill shark is no easy prey. Occurring more and more frequently, along with some even attacking boats in other regions, like just off the coast of the Iberian Peninsula. Nicknamed Orca Alley, it's not some place you want to get your boat stuck in. Closer to the states, off the Gulf of California, orcas have even taken down entire whale sharks, 20 to 30 ton animals longer than the average school bus. And killer whales are taking them out like Sunday brunch.
Please let this be a normal field trip with a friend? No way!
Using sophisticated hunting strategies and specialized tactics, these orcas kill off the sharks in packs, and often consume only their energy-rich livers, leaving the rest of the carcasses rotting. This landscape of fear created in local areas creates a food chain-wide disruption as the sharks flee for extended periods. Since 2020, a small group of orcas near the Iberian Peninsula have even begun interacting with sea vessels, most notably targeting the rudders of sailboats. Only increasing over time, this has led to the damage of hundreds of boats and the sinking of at least 6 ships.
Well,
though thankfully no fatalities have been reported.
Maybe 20 of them. They would go under the boat, they would bash up against the hull, and they would rub their bodies, I'm assuming, up against the rudder stop.
With the most advanced set of predatory skills in our waters, they could quickly decimate any area they reach. Ginormous ranges and echolocation communication allows orcas to span miles at a time without pause. It's like they're evolving right before our very eyes. Just a decade ago, orcas were seen as highly intelligent apex predators with a picky appetite. Scientists theorize this may be due to the social learning spread out from a single orca, possibly after a traumatic event with a boat or fishing gear, similar to a fad in our pop cultures. Though factors such as food shortages, increased boat traffic across the globe, and noise pollution could also be causing killer whales to act out in unusual ways. What's even more fascinating, humpback whales have been observed to notice these changes in orca behavior and have started to protect seals, sharks, and other animals from their attacks. In over 100 documented cases worldwide, there's been no clear benefit for the whales themselves. As these humpbacks intervene in an orca hunt, they use their immense size and powerful pectoral fins to disrupt the attack, charging aggressively towards the killer whales, trumpeting loudly and splashing their fins and tails to create coastal chaos. Many of times placing themselves in between the orcas and their prey, acting as a living shield. An infamous moment encapsulated in time where a whale even lifted a seal onto its chest to keep it out of reach before it could escape to an ice floe. These interventions, dependent on the persistence of the orca, can last for hours until they're driven off and impending danger is gone. A leading theory coined the expanded defense instinct hypothesis suggests that the humpback's fierce instinct to protect their own calves from orcas have expanded to encompass any creature in distress, leading them to respond automatically to the sounds of an orca hunt, only realizing the prey is another species once they arrive, but continuing to intervene anyways. Others believe the behavior points to complex cognitive and emotional traits, suggesting the whales may be capable of a form of empathy or even morality against underwater bullying, if you will. It is also possible that by constantly harassing orcas during hunts, humpbacks are training the predators in a way to avoid them and their calves in the long term. Since humpback whales often return to the same feeding grounds, this could be a strategic way to reduce predation threats for future generations, even if it benefits other species in the short term. Regardless of if this is due to interspecies altruism or rather an ingenious preemptive defensive plot by the humpbacks, this only further proves the lack of understanding we have for our oceans. If humans were able to recognize a link between our moon and ocean tides since antiquity, which is around 350 BCE, where ancient observers like Aristotle noted the moon's influence on tidal patterns, then loose-balling the play not coming up with an official proposal until 1609 by Johannes Kepler, arguing a gravitational reasoning, Sir Isaac Newton then grabs the rebound and slams it in for an and-one, adding the moon's gravity creates tidal bulges. Almost 2,000 years and we went from, yep, the moon definitely causes tides, to it's because of gravity that the ocean's happy to see us. What have I become? Remember how I mentioned around 80% of the seafloor is unmapped and without a clear picture? Yeah, well, turns out the Seabed 2030 project is working on just that. Determined to map the entire seabed by that time, this could help find hundreds if not thousands of unknown geological or even man-made features. As above, so below. Heard countlessly through modern media as ancient scriptures and hidden meanings behind primordial texts, the quote originates from Hermeticism, or the ancient philosophical and religious tradition rooted in the mystical writings attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, or better known as a combination of the Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian god Thoth, emphasizing spiritual enlightenment through gnosis or the direct personal experience one has with the divine. Not to mention in combination with metaphysical philosophy, theurgy, which is ritualistic practice, astrology, and even alchemy. As above, so below signifies a correspondence or mirroring between the spiritual and physical realms, suggesting that what occurs in one realm is reflected in the other. As humanity makes its inevitable ascension to the stars in hopes of finding a new exoplanet to colonize, grand fortune, or even in search of answers, this quote teaches us that there may be more to the puzzle down here amongst us. Having gone from once a mirror of our cosmic destiny to now a chill spot to spend the weekend at, with a clear connection between our stars and our oceans, even thousands of years ago, why are we still going out to eat when there's already leftovers at home?
Thank you. That's all the time I need.
What?
Fruit alert! Ew, gross. Its capital city built on top of a mite hill, really? You forgot the Y there, buddy boy. Ooh, Louis Vuitton umbrella when I walk through the rain in the kitchen whipping chicken counting bread like King's good. Oh, got a man looking like Johnny Dang, knee deep in muddy water, still carrying my K. Rock pot got money, leg pot cocaine, bulletproof white Cadillac riding in the tank. I'm a dirty.